so that I wouldn't have to do those transfers.
Okay,
But
So
that
we
kind
will-
of got left.
okay, why don't
hanging a
you
little
then
bit.
indicate to that via email to the council?
Okay.
Okay. With the explanation.
Still requesting the capital improvements within the rec center budget. For this would be the third year for that.
Okay, read your line item.
205, 207, 9999.
Okay, I got it.
So that is where annually 100,000 has been allocated for capital improvements.
I see.
So every year we do have a list
Right.
for those improvements, including equipment purchasing, things,
Yeah.
major repairs, pool
Right.
resurfacing, those types of items.
Right.
So that's really it for 205. Ours doesn't fluctuate really that much,
Okay,
and then our capital improvements are included within our fund.
right, correct.
So moving down, 207, 5620, supplies and materials.
Right.
That is the community festival. So we're requesting to host that again.
Right.
I did print out a new projected expenses for
That's what
2015.
we came up with last night about,
Yes, that's
It's
correct.
almost
It looks like
to
she's
the nose.
very close to what we are.
right,
There we go.
were gonna, that's pretty good.
So, well, what I've worked on, what I've done with this, I went through our actuals from last year.
Right,
I did, for operational marketing, I included in here a 3% increase just because a lot of those services absolutely go up from year to year.
I understand.
So I did account for that. Entertainment, pretty much the same, fireworks the same, those types of things. Security did not change. I did include city overtime in here for the simple fact, you know, I'm unsure at this point if there's gonna be problems with unions, with piecemealing work out, with volunteers for for everything, for certain things where we wanted to cut back, but we're not sure with some of
Well,
those
let's
items
get
if
a,
that's
let's
gonna
get
be
a
a union issue.
clarification on that, I think, as to, because that could save us
Mhm,
significant money.
absolutely. I left it the same, I didn't increase it.
Okay.
So I did leave that the same.
And this, did this include also the electrical, the installation in that 5,500?
For any of the work that they did.
You know,
No,
Brian?
that was done during work hours, business, regular
Okay,
hours.
okay, so that was something that we're not repeating, and we
Correct.
do have, and we don't have to buy the electrical from
Yep.
Buck that we had to.
I did take that out of operational. I left a little cushion in there for some, electrical needs that we may have.
Okay,
And I also, I talked to, one thing I wanted to change for this year, I did talk to NHA to see if this would even be feasible. What we did last year was we kept total control of purchasing the liquor license, purchasing the beverage items up front. We
Yes.
received the refund, we paid out, the profit that they made since it was a fundraiser. So what we're gonna do this year, that was included, I mean, that was over $7,000 of this last year's budget for this.
okay,
What we're gonna do this year is, NHA or whichever nonprofit it may be, they're going to deal directly with the distributor. They're going to pay up front. They're going to personally, get back the refund for any unused items, and it takes us out of that portion of it. So we're not paying that up front, we're not getting a reimbursement, and we're not settling up with them at the end. It's
Right.
strictly gonna be between those two parties.
right,
So
okay,
we took ourselves out of that, is what I did
okay.
with this, so that's a,
That's another
That's a
area
sig-
where
yeah.
we assisting us here.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
so, and I did make a couple notes at the bottom. We had talked, and the Parks and Rec Commission had discussed every year adding
mhm,
another element, another attraction. We've had suggestions for a car show, a gambling tent, 5K. I've heard all kinds of suggestions, which are all great. This does not include any additional cost for any of those items,
right,
which could incur additional security. It might include additional tent rentals, it might include, a few additional electrical items. So
okay.
there is no cushion in this.
I've got
to
that
add
in the
in.
31,200.
If you go to 40, is what I
Yes,
think
she's
you're
saying
asking
if you
for,
go-
40, right?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, on this area, is we need to know whether any of those areas where we have suggestions, which may be very good, is to whether we are expecting to receive additional offsetting money coming in because of those, and those would be given perhaps a higher priority than those that would be basically a cost and not getting any real benefit. But the number that I have in 207-5620 is 35,000, and I think when we talked yesterday, I think you had said 30 you thought was reasonable. Do you think 35 is?
35.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna
Okay.
leave it at 35, and please provide any additional information that you can regarding any additional proposals that might also generate revenue.
Okay,
Chris and I've already talked about the 5K, and there's a company that I traditionally work with that if you get so many participants, everything after that is
Yes, it could be.
profit.
Profit.
The car show, you traditionally rent space to them, so it's not really cost, it's theirs. And then the gambling tent we've run through volunteers in the past, so that you could actually set it up just like you're doing with a nonprofit beer tent, where they actually have the onus to do that, just give us a rental fee or partial, because we've done that before in the past too.
I think more importantly, we can start this process now, council's in agreement, so that you're not in a mad scramble like we were this year, and start to have that, getting the ride company in place, and hopefully, maybe we can push it to a little bit later where, the weather would be, we got lucky this year, I think, for the most part.
Well, yeah, Sunday, except for Sunday, it was really
Right,
pretty
but I
nice.
mean, overall, we got lucky, but if we can push it even a little bit later, generally,
Well, I think we've even
Right.
talked about changing the date, because the date was,
Well,
we
I
were
don't-
kind of at the mercy of all those
Yeah.
people. Well, we were at the mercy of all those people because of when they could do it. So we talked about having a different date in the summer, which would then, is once it's blessed and approved, we can go off and start working the 5K. That company will do it no matter what. They're never to the point that they're overbooked.
I get it. I think a 5K would be a good,
Yeah, we've talked about doing a
Right.
5K
That's what we
two
need to do
different times
first.
of the year.
and if we can move forward with this, I would just request that a motion or something be made at a council meeting.
well, we're gonna adopt this budget in December is the plan, so, but as far as I'm concerned, we're all here, I don't think anybody has had any objections to the 35,000 among any of the players here. So I think, as a practical matter, you can move forward.
You could approach them to see what available dates they have now, because, yeah, it's a year in advance is when
I
they
think
do
we
it.
just-
Once you get beyond January 1st, you're at their mercy.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you think the fireworks will stay at 8?
yeah. Well, what they do, we've stayed at 8 for years, and they
Adjust
They
the,
adjust,
It's
they
passed
do.
on now.
yeah, it was a great show this year.
Nice.
It was a fantastic show.
I saw a lot of
Yeah, a lot of
shows
brothers
over the
that
4th of
day.
July, up Sandusky, Marblehead area, and
Thank you.
it's amazing what a difference it is and how fortunate people are here to be so close to the show, because everyone was so excited to go see all these shows, and I went along with them, and I sat there, and I was so far away, and I thought, this is such a letdown.
Yeah, it was over there in the woods by the church over there, so that was really dramatic. It looked like we were falling on us, it was
Yeah.
really, and loud, it was really
It
great.
nice. They did a great job.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you so much.
thank you.
And, next up is the law department, I have Mr. Gadetti's here. Okay.
So this is 101, 150, 5118 through 101, 5344. And most of it's pretty self-explanatory, as you can see. The prosecutor's retainers included. In
No,
one-
actually, it's in the other, it's in the mayor's court.
She
budget.
put the
In one-
mayor's,
Oh, was it? Okay.
and the minors, they met the mayor's court, right?
Yes, Iris and mayor's court. Okay,
The,
so did you we need to make an adjustment based on that?
well, I have it on
You have a duplicate in here?
5119.
Yeah, okay, so we need to strike,
It shows a 0, and that's the reason.
Yeah,
why
it's
it's
0.
Oh, yeah,
It's up
that's
on
right,
okay,
there.
it's
right.
0,
You're
so
right.
yours
You're
is
right.
not anything to do with hers.
He moved it last year over to
Okay.
the line item.
I
Okay,
think the big thing that would jump out at you is the retainers included in the
Mhm.
2015 budget, is the increase there. And also item 101, 150, 5340, the legal fees, that's the individualized cases. And that's obviously an estimate for what we face, that's gonna change.
Which number is that, I'm sorry?
That one is the first one under hourly rate, 5340.
5340.
Correct,
It
for
says-
Page 3.
148,000.
On the,
I have,
it's on page 3.
So
okay,
they
we're
already
on page
came in-
3. We're in 101,
31.
150,
This one?
legal fees, about
176.
5340, okay?
Right, and that would include things like Route 8, the 271 ramp,
Well,
the farmers matter, all that stuff. And anything else that might pop up. And like I said, that's just an estimate, we can't say exactly what it would be.
Mhm. Okay, so if we add those two big numbers together, we get something on the range of 330,000.
331, 596, 13.
Yeah, I got your request here, or what else?
I think that's about it, unless you have any questions.
Yes, so how much of this estimate is the Plough Farnhurst matter and how much is other matters?
I don't have a specific breakdown on the
Can you provide that to the council finance
I
committee?
can follow up with the law director, sure.
Yes, right. And let's look to, basically, the amount of money, 330,000, is definitely a dramatic increase. So, you know, we'll be looking at the alternatives here, but
And I think that's the amount that was previously approved and struck by council, I think in 2012, in the pay ordinance. if I'm
this,
recalling
the
correctly.
pay ordinance is expired as of, however we look at this.
I think that's where that amount was originally
Yeah, right.
set forth though.
Okay. So, from that standpoint, 330,000 basically is what we're talking about here. Now, with Myra, that would add another approximately 95, which would bring us to about 425, I got that. And, so that's the total legal fees. There's some other minor fees here that are really trivial. I need to go back and look at 180 for a minute.
It's 180, I'm sorry.
101, 180, the building department, because prior to this, they have had items in there. Legal services,
That's advertising, right?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
They had
yeah,
a,
that's not law department.
No.
do you have anything in here on law this year?
No, the $6,000 is strictly,
Okay,
That is
all right,
different.
Yeah.
just trying to verify.
We should amend that, so get rid of the legal service, just say advertising, so that it's more.
Right,
It's
okay.
more, I think it's just pure more advertising, isn't it?
it's just legal advertising.
Legal
Okay, so we can
advertising,
adjust the
like
line item
The word
names.
services until Scott was we did legal
Right,
advertising.
okay, no problem. So if you can get us, this information regarding, what your projection is and why, and, I don't think we have any questions other than that. I don't. Do you have any questions? Anybody else have questions?
Yes, well, yes, I do.
Okay.
The legal department says 155. So did you include the pension, the Medicare and hospitalization and workers' comp in that?
That's all included, right?
And did you include the retainer for the court prosecutor? Because if I add them up without that, it only comes up to like 90 something. Okay.
Let's see.
No, the court prosecutor is in the
Well,
mayor's court.
The court prosecutor is in there, the retainer, for 53, 185, 81.
So you would take out of the 155, because the retainer for the court prosecutor really is
Is already in
up
there.
above.
Right.
Mm,
Can you give us a breakdown?
Yes.
Of the retainer, so we know exactly what it's made of?
Sure, I
It
mean.
sounds like it's made of several things, if you could send it to us in writing, it would be helpful.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, you just provide that, I
Because
think you're right.
my concern is I can see where you probably took the pension, the Medicare, the hospitalization, the workman's comp, but then you may have added 5119 line item,
It's possible.
which
He's
is
in the right.
actually
That's correct.
up above.
Okay.
But that's because there was a line item change made last year. It used to be
Okay.
included there, and then it got moved last year.
That would make sense.
So if you took hers out,
Sorry.
your line changes to like 90 something, which comes back to more in line of what it was.
Okay.
Our costs relative to court cases, public record, while they're in process.
Our estimate would not be, no.
So here's what we're gonna do about that.
Well, then it needs to be an executive.
Well, it needs to be provided to us.
Right.
And yeah, however it's provided, it can be provided on paper, it's just with the understanding that's all confidential, which is fine. Okay? So, nobody any other questions?
So that's the legal fees would be the legal documentation breakdown. We anticipate us facing next year, and we do that in executive session.
Based on what we currently know.
Make sure you take the big red stance. Confidential.
Well, that
So
doesn't
that-
matter
and-
here
and
now.
Mark, that's
Yeah,
done
we
in
know.
executive session.
Well, we didn't do that.
Passing a
Council
documentation
didn't do it.
and litigation.
All right,
So we
Well-
have to do it in that form. It can't be done in this kind of form.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Okay.
all right. So, we're gonna move right, unless you have something
Nope,
else you
that's it.
wanna say?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're gonna move right to the mayor's office in Mayor's Court.
So magistrate fees was moved up above. Because it shows zero where you're at, Mark, but I didn't know if it moved somewhere up above. And you didn't include the magistrate, did you?
So the magistrate would be.
I think it was actually.
Because there was prosecute, bill, legislation, magistrate fees.
No, that's been
And I
moved.
thought,
Unless that was also moved on
I
mine,
thought
I
did you
have.
pull all of that up into the retainer fee?
Oh yeah, it's zeroed out on mine, so
Okay.
yeah. It's been moved.
So maybe, that was on the next page.
Yeah, it was 5344, but
Because then I'm looking at the prosecutor bill, and I don't show anything above to that.
Well, in the legal department, magistrate fees, the magistrate's gotta be more than $4,500. I don't know what that's all about.
Well, remember last year he moved that all up in the mayor's court, but I
Right.
don't know where he put it.
Well,
Maybe
it's
that's
in,
why
it's in
so
the
high.
mayor's court.
Under
where-
salaries and wages.
Well,
Could
no,
be.
that's the
That's
two
Myra.
ladies, the clerk, and no, she's under retainers and pension and various
I
other.
think, I
So
guess Myra, I
is
think
the
they are
re-
missing.
Yes, Myra's in that area.
All right,
and
Mayor, this is
hospital-
your department.
This is mayor's court,
Yeah, it's the mayor's department.
right, it's in mayor's court.
So in the mayor's court, is Myra a retainer
Yes,
and is the magistrate part of that?
yes,
Part of the retainer.
Okay, so because on, we have two line items that basically have nothing for this year. I just wanna make sure, or for 2015, that moved up within, and there's no line item like that up above.
I'll find.
Yeah, we need to find
It's-
out what 5118 covers, because does it cover the court prosecutor and the magistrate? Because if you notice, there's no
Well, we
magistrate.
probably need clarification on
Yes.
10, 15, 18,
Right,
and this breakdown of pensions.
We'll get it.
All
right,
the
51, 18, 12, and
12, 14.
Well, that's where it's at, it's got it in the mayor's court retainer. That's where her costs are right
Well, yeah, I
there.
guess we're concerned about breakdown, so 10 to 20.
and what's in there?
What's going to the,
Because
are we
you're
paying?
talking 51,
Yeah,
there's a
are
couple
we
line
paying,
items
are
that.
we
The
paying
salaries and-
hospitalization for the,
right.
for the mag,
They're
for the
51,
for the
10,
magistrate, we're
52.
paying hospitalization for the prosecutor. I know we're paying hospitalization for the clerk.
right, we're paying for the clerks there in that line, salaries and wages.
We just need to know what comes out of that number from
Okay,
5110.
we'll get it
We also-
clarified, and the mayor will get that for us.
Mayor, we also need to know, there's the contracted services, 5410. What is that?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So we might as well just go all the way from 5110 to 5340 and 5410.
Oh, yeah, because there's also legal fees for mayor's court.
Yes, and that is,
That's what I'm saying, just do the whole,
Yeah, what the hell is that?
well, she has not just the regular retainer, but she has X amount of money that she, when she involves in negotiation and
Thank you.
consultation and all that. So that's what that is.
That's been,
I think we need to just
Well-
sit down and figure out what did Scott put in these numbers
Well-
that used to be broken down below? What is corporate up here, because I would have expected to see a one-to-one.
Well, you
above,
can see
and there's not.
actually, you can actually see
That's one
most of this in the
So we
current
have
financial
magistrate, we
reports.
have
Now, the
clerk,
magistrate
we have two
is,
clerks, magistrate, and a prosecutor. Anybody else?
Partridge and pear tree.
Okay.
all
If
right.
anybody knows, you can.
Okay, so now let's talk about the mayor's office itself, because that is something, we've talked about the mayor's court here. What about the mayor's office.
Well, the only thing that we had, to bring to your attention is in several places, we seem to not have longevity. So longevity is a contracted commitment. So we gotta find out what about longevity.
Okay, we'll find out.
Also,
Can I ask a question? Would that impact every department?
Longevity is built into all of the departments,
But we need to make sure it's built in. Do you have that
well,
question?
yeah,
Yes,
it's
we need
in
to
other
make sure it's
departments
built in.
too.
it's,
So we
yes,
have this
it's in
longevity
everyone's
built in
department.
every department.
Okay, what's, what else?
All right, you have to remember that, or actually, you didn't have to remember, you didn't even know this maybe, but the mayor's salary goes up in December of next year.
Yes, next
So
year.
we have two alternatives, you can just change the legislation to read, because the mayor's the only one that ends at November, the end of the
Yeah,
month. So the mayor can go till the first of the year and nothing changes.
So
But I
the-
would have to bring you legislation
So
stating.
we need to make sure that the increase is in
For November.
for the mayor's office employees and then the increase for that 1 month. So that the
Okay.
4,000
So
would cover.
you have a choice, you can either increase it for 1 month, or you can change it, because the mayor's the only one on all the salaries that is ended at the end of
Well, what we
November.
just need to do is if the
Well, the
122
increase-
covers
You
the.
take office December first, the new mayor takes office, the new term, and that's when that person will be getting the higher rate. That's
But
basically,
previously, it always had been, you take office in January.
I know, and that changed.
So you
Previously,
gotta have the money there to pay them.
we,
So you gotta have it in the budget, so
Well,
right, so we need to make
we're-
sure that includes
we're
any
gonna make
increase
sure
that
that-
is for the employee and for that 1 month of the mayor.
it's gonna,
Okay.
5410, contracted services, 16.5. What contracted services does the mayor department, mayor's office have?
okay. That's a good question, let's get that answer.
Well, I'm sure IT is in there, I can't tell you exactly what everyone is, I can find out.
Okay, I mean, it's just, that it's always such a vague, to me, those are vague descriptions. I'm just curious. Thank you, John.
Okay,
Because we see computer maintenance down here at 4,500.
So did you see the part-time salaries, mayor's office?
yes.
What's that for?
Employees.
And what employees? There's 2 employees in the mayor's office, isn't it Diana and him, right?
Part-time is HR.
Right.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you, Don.
Actually, I'd like you to consider
Thank you.
a part-time office assistant for the 2 ladies that work, because all of our HR work and mayor's office work is done by 2 people. And a part-time would be of great help because of records requests. Yes, we've talked about that before, but there's plenty of work to keep a part-timer busy between the 2, HR and mayor's office. And then I talked to you about I'd like to know tonight, if possible, can I just go ahead and spend that 8,500? I think it would be, within the budget
For what?
that we have now for that antenna to
Oh,
cut
yeah,
the
it was supposed to be
communication
in
costs.
401,
Yeah.
so,
Just put it in the law department, put that, because we have a meeting next Thursday.
We'll
Just
turn it
bring it
Thursday.
All right,
Now, last year you said if we hired a part-time records clerk, we'd have $15,000. But they would not just do the records clerk or records request for the mayor, but would do everyone's record clerk and
yeah,
also.
we're gonna get that taken care of.
Well,
Yes, everyone. So is that still the dollar amount you're suggesting if you hired a part-timer, because it was 15?
I can't tell you what that was last year, whether it was, what group it was under, salary group. But after long discussions between Betsy and Diana, because of the type of work it is, the receptionist office assistant pay grade 3 would be what they would desire. Why? Because it's all, like for instance, working with HR, you have to have someone that is a little bit higher than minimum wage. You gotta have somebody in there that has some capabilities, and you're not gonna get somebody that has the education or the ability to understand that at minimum, which is pay grade 1. So they were talking pay grade 3, which is $15 an hour, and approximately 20 hours a week.
All right, well, you're basically concerned about the antenna. I don't think there's any doubt that we can cover that antenna. So,
Yes,
if you need to
also-
move ahead with the antenna, we're not going to be in a
Okay.
problem here.
But he's also looking at, would we consider a part-time person that
That's
knows
different.
work
That's
within.
different, yes.
Yeah. I'm not
That's,
saying-
that'll be looked at as part of the total picture.
52. So that's around 15.
Who does
That
most of
seems
the record
interesting.
requests right now, Mayor? Who does the majority of the record requests?
Well, depending on which department it is, you get records requests from police, from building, from, Diana does them from the mayor's office. Diana coordinates everything. Diana does the messenger. Diana answers the phone. Diana brings me a cup of coffee, you name it, she does it.
$72,000 a year, I think that's pretty good.
72. How do you know about that?
I'm looking at the salaries.
For $50 an hour? Large
I-
time?
It's 15,600.
How much you say, what'd you?
15,600.
That's for part-time?
It's $15 an hour times 20 hours times 52.
Yeah, that's not where, Diana's salary is very similar to the mayor's.
How-
This is
Actually, it's
part-time
a
or
little
pay
bit
grade
more.
3.
And,
Yeah, I think
around
Diana makes more
56
than
or
the mayor.
57, I can't remember.
She makes more,
Yes.
so,
God
she makes
forbid
what
they
time,
raise the
56?
minimum wage at work.
It's slightly more, just
Okay.
enough
Pay
to
grade 3.
depress me, I can't remember the exact.
Okay. All right, so,
But she does raise profits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hey,
right.
you
That's
know,
so-
hey,
that's worth the extra.
That's a good 56,000.
that's worth the extra 1,000 or 2.
Yeah, I think.
I'd bring you a cup of coffee, I wouldn't charge you. Man,
Well, actually, now we have a
hey, I
courier,
would
so
not,
she
I
don't
made them
even
chicken
have to do that.
paprikash even.
So is there
Okay.
anything else besides the antenna and the part-time employee?
Nope,
Nick, I
that's
twice
it,
a
everything
year.
else is right on, right about where we should be. Good.
All right, well, the last thing we're going to try to address tonight is the city council itself. Right now we have, which is 101. And with that thought in mind,
John, with that 122, did he put that increase in there for that last month, do you know, it's got?
No,
Oh,
it
okay,
is not.
okay. So,
we can look at that, that's a small adjustment though
right,
for
so
that
the
last month.
increase, right, last month?
Yeah, well, it's basically 1/12 of $10,000.
I'm just making my notes there, so.
So it's about $900 with a push addition.
All right, thanks, Don.
Okay, so,
12 or 16.
We're skipping finance
well,
department.
I went, but we already have enough money to cover 55,000.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Okay, moving right along into the city council, we have, obviously, we have, the salary for the clerk. As we were discussing last night, we've had some things happening in terms of, getting minutes out on time and that kind of thing, and we were discussing adding a little bit of additional money and bringing in a part-time person, who would be somewhere in the range of probably $15,000 like he was saying, and working on certain elements of what the clerk is doing at this point. Are there any other areas where we have, when I'm looking at these dollars here, we are very low on training and education and on travel. Do we have any planning for training next year? right now it's sitting at the $3,000.
Why did it double?
I think he just restored what was in there originally last year that was reduced when we reduced it last year. We spent about all of that 1,500 last year, but we had started the year with a higher number and it was reduced.
No, we did 1,500, we've spent 1,468, so
Well,
we don't need to double this.
Correct.
well,
I'd rather put the, don't double it and make sure we get the clerk.
I
Well-
think we ought to know what it's going for.
Yes,
well
I
in
agree.
advance, because I think if there's
I
an
agree.
opportunity for all of us to have that, then we should know about it, and if we feel that it's something that's not, shouldn't be paid by the city, then I think we should all agree on that as well.
okay, I don't have a problem with that. If any, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna ask people for input on any potential training that they think would be beneficial.
I'd say
And,
cut that back in half.
and, we can then work forward from there to determine, as a group, which things we're gonna support, okay? But other than that, there's
I'd
not.
cut that back to 1,500, because we didn't spend 1,500. Leave it 1,500, that way you can take the assistant council clerk. Did you guys have the same discussion that the mayor had about, do you bring someone in at entry level, or do they need a little more knowledge?
Well, it was
What
somebody
they're
who could
doing?
do council clerk work, so it would be a more than entry level, but it would not be, you know, billions of dollars either. It's more like what the mayor said.
Let's put it back to 1,500 and then we'll discuss it as we go forward and find out exactly what we're gonna
Right, 'cause we
Right,
had-
well, we just get some input, Dave, on this, so
What
we
about-
know exactly what is
do.
proposed.
I'm just
What
saying for
about
right now, let's
attorney?
peg it at
It,
15.
well,
Yeah,
you know,
make
it-
it 15, because if you're going up to 12, they had a clerk. You gotta, it doesn't look right.
now
that
he's
we
talking
have-
about the training, right?
Council training, you want us to get us.
I'd make it 15 for that, get us 12 in case we need to go to 15 for this clerk. I know Josephine did talk to him about the codifieds.
There's a
I
number
will
of,
validate with her that this is the number that she, or Dave, you should, the
Yes.
number she said, because the codification isn't done every year, so
yeah,
Yeah, but she's
Well, how
been.
many hours
we need to make sure that we're, if we don't need it, we have it.
It is.
to do.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
like
like
45
I have no idea.
Yeah,
yes.
but she may not, I don't know if this is the year she needs to do it or not.
We do it every year.
I know,
She
but
already is.
we
in
only
full
spend,
time.
Oh, she's not full-time.
I
Well,
think
we have
she's
45
been
in
full
right now,
time.
so.
yeah, we spend
That's a good
1288,
question.
Yeah, Sylvia,
so.
Yeah.
how is,
I'm just thinking if
Josephine,
we
is she
do this
full-time paid? She she doing full-time right now?
well, no, she did go overtime in this past
It's
week.
just we gotta give her money for overtime.
Well, I know that, but that's not part of this budget.
Right,
What I'm saying is, we're talking about the
Well,
council
here's the
clerk,
question.
Uh-huh.
Now it's
why don't we just make it full time?
I don't think we need to do that, because then you're talking about having, you know, additional costs. If we keep this person, this assistant person below a certain number, we don't have to pay hospitalization and all of that.
I'd like to see the difference if we made it full-time versus bring that person on, maybe it might make sense.
Well, if
Because I don't
we,
think we ran the numbers to see it. if we
she's,
made it
she's
full-time.
working 39 hours a week now, so that's really not, that's all I'm saying. Okay,
But he wants to see.
we'll,
what he's
we'll look
asking.
at it,
He
we'll look
wants
at
to
it,
still
I'm just,
see.
yes, we can
He's
see
Email
also-
me
it,
on that.
we can see it, I'm not objecting, I'm just saying it's
I'll
gonna
find out
be.
for you. I'll find out there for you. What
Ladies
about
and
the-
gentlemen, we've walked through
What
the
about the
major
church?
expense budgets. The debt is not
I know
changing
some of
significantly
council.
for the coming year. We are gonna have some additional debt items related to the sim loan, excuse me. And, depending on what's happening with some of these, we get the 470 we have to come up with a 470 or not. Basically, at this point, we are, let me just say something about the overall budget that we discussed last night, because it's important to know. The numbers that we have all the way up through October, which means we only have 2 months left, we're actually running about 1% in income tax above what we ran last year. So, we estimated the last 2 months as the most conservative numbers, but from what I can see, we're likely to be above those numbers, but we wanted to use the conservative numbers. So it's very likely that when we make the final adjustment on this budget, we will have a larger carryover than we had to originally anticipate. So we could be in the 3.9 range in the carryover as opposed to the 2.32.
Unencumbered?
Yes. So it's possible. So we'll just, we will see what numbers, we're gonna have those numbers by the 6th of December, and the final version of this will include where we are, where we're gonna be with that carryover. So, just to let you know that. And because we have a number of issues that we need feedback on, I'm going to say we are going to conduct the October 30 meeting, and it'll be at 7 o'clock.
Should we just see where we're at that point, because we have other meetings here scheduled.
Right, well, we have, that's the meeting that I've already put into the schedule, the October 30th meeting.
That's not, look at October, to the left.
What about it?
Gotta look at that.
Yeah, finance meetings at
That
7
one was-
PM.
That was
What's
one
the
we
date?
talked
I'm
about.
sorry.
Yes, so it's not an
Today's the
additional meeting.
16th.
16th,
Oh,
correct.
It's, so today is the 16th, we will receive quite a bit of input, and then we'll make the final cuts on the budget on the October 30th one before we go into first reading, so,
Sylvia,
yeah.
We have
just to
the-
be clear, finance, we need to make sure, like Jan said, we need to make sure that it's a correct date.
Well, I
That
agree, don't worry about it.
everything, none of this like it went into last year, all this craziness
Yes.
with different dates and different budgets.
Well-
When we did this yesterday, this was all introduced as the mayor's budget and the
Right, it is
president's
the mayor's
budget.
budget,
Okay, just so everybody's clear on it.
Well,
because
but
we did
we're
that
going to
last
make the final cuts
year. Well,
on the budget on October 30th.
and, I really wasn't
This
going
is
with
the mayor's
council,
budget?
so I wanted to talk with.
Yes.
It was from the.
Yes, from the meetings with
What
the,
we-
yes, absolutely, it was the meetings with the department heads. And with the
Mayor, well, how do you wanna
Yeah.
change it then?
I just wanna have something prior to 11 o'clock having a meeting next day, so if we're gonna have the meeting on the 30th, any changes or any meetings that we're gonna have, I'm
Well-
not being difficult, hear me out.
Yeah.
I'd like to have it at least 2 days prior to
Okay.
the
We
meeting.
never have.
I think we're gonna have it, I'll put a schedule out that requires all the input, the previous week.
If
And
we
then we
have
can
some
make
spirited
the,
emails we can send to each other and,
Right.
you know,
Sylvia,
they still have my information.
talk about
David.
council.
Alright, motion to adjourn?
David.
Good night, everybody.
The mayor,
oh, we don't,
mayor,
that's in the legal.
approve it.
Okay,
Right, okay, gotcha.
that's, all right, thank you
All right.
very much, we are adjourned.
All right, okay, gotcha on that.
This, hold on, let me turn this thing on.
See you all later.
Okay, bright and early.
Everyone.